You always that tsundere? Jesus, that's a hell of a streak, Kaviri. Thanks for the glizzy sacrifice and the 5 months, by the way. I'm sure nobody else wants to glizzy sacrifice. Hey Snacks, what's going on? Toon TM Dere. Hey Nero. Thanks for the glizzies. We love the glizzies. You know what else we love? Uh jeez, chat. You want to see some crazy work? You want to see some crazy work? Waifu found an image. Waifu found an image. I'm just gonna cover me up with it, cause y'all have to see this. Check it out. That's some crazy work. The funny thing about it is, having lived in the parts of the South that I have lived in, that's gonna get a few people. That is absolutely going to get a few people. Thought it would be a little tangentially related to what we're doing today. So what's up? How's y'all's week going? Let's see, we're missing Noodle. VTubers have warrants? Oh man, more streaking in chat. 20 streams. Have I even done 20 streams? Jesus Christ, mother-in-law left today? Is that good or bad? Is that good or bad for your tomorrow? Extremely good. Yeah, I thought so. Lizard. Imagine my broskies having like 20 stream streaks. And my wife and moderator is sitting there at 7. I know where I'm sending the chocolates to. I know who to divert that chocolate to. You need a glizzard? Oh god. I just put that together. Glizzard. 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 Y'all are great. Y'all are great. But yeah, Kaviri, Lirio, I guess Saru can have some too. I know Saru's streak is bigger. What? Teach Fish Day to a lifetime. You don't know how you're only at 19 and you're upset? Yeah, that's a fair point. The streaks are kind of... I kind of don't like them. I don't like them. They're good for the one joke. They're good for the streaking in chat joke, but that's like literally it. That's all they're good for. I don't have a big streak, but I am a cat girl. Well, Counts for something. Lizard. Oh, here's the cope. Here's the cope. I have work during your streams. Let's see. Well, you're either opening or closing. My streams tend to go until after you're home from work. So I don't really think you have an excuse. They do give extra channel points, but like as a mechanic. I'm at 18 because I don't jump on bandwagons. You're still doing better than waifu. Isn't Valentine's Day all about opening and closing? Well, yes, but it's also about thirst trapping, which we are about to get into. You say goodbye as I'm pulling into the driveway. Skill issue. If you actually made them let you out on time, that wouldn't happen. So you can go to work and complain to them. I know it's retail. I've been retail. You know what happens in retail? They complain when you leave late. That's not how it works. They complain when you leave late. What are you, slow? That's how retail was for me, anyway. Who else had their ass had chewed out when they left late because like they actually did their job? Yeah. Yeah. You're not allowed to do your job. You got to leave on time. And if you don't do your job, you also get yelled at. So you're getting yelled at either way. So you might as well come home on time. I'm just saying. They're going to complain no matter what you do. They're going to complain if you leave late. They're going to complain if you don't do all your work. Just like leave the registers out unlocked. It'll be fine. No one will take those. What even was my week? Like, I'm trying to talk about my week, but I don't even remember it. I don't remember my week. It's been busy. It's been busy. I love when they ask me to stay 2 hours extra, then complain I don't keep productivity time on the same level for 10 hours. Jesus. Like, that's retarded, because we know. We know that your productivity after about 6 hours just falls off a cliff. We know that. And depending on the task, a lot sooner. We also know that, like, 1 hour is about the maximum amount of time somebody can, like, productively stare at nothing. Like, if they're having to watch, for minor changes and things. An hour is about the longest we can expect somebody to do that. So there's that. But yeah, it's tomorrow's Valentine's Day, and I'm sure you've seen the ramp up in GFE content from creators of All Stripes and hold on. Nero interrupted my thought. Yeah, that's why the FAA switches controllers every 45 minutes to an hour. Yeah. Yeah. Like we've done this research. Why weren't you as productive for the 8th, 9th, and 10th hour? We know that that's a thing. And we also know that your productivity after like hour 6 falls off a cliff. That's why you should schedule all your meetings for hours 6, 7, and 8. But everybody wants their meetings in the morning when you're their most productive. It's crazy. By the time you get out of the morning meetings, your productivity is like way down. Way down. Like, really, the most productive is like until like 11 a.m. Like, if you're at an 8 to 5, uh, 11 is when the fall off starts. There's like a big drop right after lunch for obvious reasons, and then it like keeps falling, and then like after like 2 or 3 o'clock, it just falls off a cliff. But we know that. It's not even a little bit debatable. Anyway, what was I doing? I promise. We're gonna get to it. I'm just stalling for like these hiccups that are coming. One of my children. Ah! No. Let's see if we can get this focused. They gave me a turtle. Little acrylic turtle. So I guess I'm raising like little Jeb bushes. We're talking about GFE? Sure. Oh yeah, there's another turtle. Valentine's GFE? Yeah, so I'm sure chat's noticed that. It happens every year. Streamers, whether they normally GFE or whether they don't, and it all comes from the women. Like, actually, guys, have you seen a guy do Valentine's, like, BFE content? I'm sure there's, like, at least one VTuber, like, dude out there, but, like, I don't see it from the fleshies so much. You know, before I just completely talk out my ass about how, like, zero guys do it, have y'all seen that? No, Serial's taking a break. Nero, is that something you would have done? But, like, by and large, it's the girls, right? By and large, it's girls. And it doesn't even matter if, like, GFE's their normal content. A lot of them will have, like, GFE-style stuff done on the 14th. And the reason that is meaningful is because there are risks associated with that type of content, and treading into it lightly may not be a good idea. So I'm not saying not to do it. What I'm saying is do it with your eyes open, and we have, like, an entire presentation about how adult content works from the perspective of, like, risk management and cybersecurity. So that's what we're doing today. And, like, I just preempted my first slide. That's how much of a professional I am. I just did my first slide, but, like, I didn't bring it up. So, yeah. That's why we're doing the entire thing, but, like, a serious joke? Maybe as a joke, but not seriously? Yeah, so, like, I don't know, you would think, like, Vesper would do it, right? Is Vesper still a thing? Is Vesper still a thing? Is Aethel doing, is Aethel doing Valentine's content? Let's see. A serious no, yeah, I don't know either. So we're gonna focus on the gals mostly. So this might be a little bit of a disappointment for anybody expecting long-winded stories about why I'm talking about this and, like, where I rate and all of this. But this is gonna be like a dude trust me moment. Sorry, but this is either gonna resonate with you or it's not. I do have experience. I'm not gonna, like, out anybody. I'm not going to be name dropping anybody to, like, try to convince you that I know what I'm talking about. But I have some experience here, and that's just going to have to be a dude trust me. And also, I'm a cybersecurity professional. That one's also a dude trust me. But there you go. But that's who I am. I'm a cybersecurity professional with experience in the field, and I will offer you zero proof of that. So first we got to define what sex work is, because a lot of people think that because they're not doing it as their main content, or because they think of it in very narrow terms, that they're not doing any. So we've got to establish what it is we're talking about. So I want to ask you a few questions about your content, and they're up on the screen. It's like, do you allow minors in your chat? Why not? Is it because you swear a lot? Is it because minors are people that make you want to censor yourself in ways that you don't want to censor yourself? And if that is true, you have to ask yourself why that is. You have to categorize your streams. And I'm going to add sexual themes to my content label right now. Speaking of, there we go. I almost forgot to do that, professional streamer. Everyone in chat is an RM alt too. Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. But no. So if you do not allow minors in your chat, you really have to think about why. Because I think, not think, by definition, if you're restricting your content to adults, you're doing adult content, which is not necessarily sex work, but you are now in adult content because you're doing your content for adults. So, like, you wouldn't call Saturday Night Live sex work, but that is generally a show where, you know, it's parental discretion is advised and all that stuff because they're doing adult jokes, they're doing adult humor, late night shows, all of that. So another thing you have to think about is what are your content goals? And this is where things get like really, really fuzzy. If your content goal involves anything like making men feel less lonely, or your audience, not just necessarily men, but if it involves at all making your audience feel less lonely, giving them a sense of companionship, anything at that level, you're already skirting, like you're already doing GFE. This already skirts sex work, even though it's allowed on platforms that you would not associate with that, like Twitch and YouTube. Twitch also has the pool and hot tub section, and almost everybody considers the bulk of the content there sex work. It's sexually explicit. Now, a lot of people think that sex work is just like literally prostitution, and there was a time where that was the case. There was a time when there was this whole like cam girls don't count sort of thing going on. Those norms have kind of been muddied. But what people really get mad about is the distinction between at will and what is called survival sex work. And those are very different things. And sex workers that are like survival sex workers get like, they get a little defensive when people that are in the industry willingly kind of talk about being on even ground. And I would say they're not, but sex work covers a lot these days. It absolutely does. And it covers cam girls, it covers GFE streamers, certain types of ASMR. It is no longer about whether or not you're doing explicit stuff for money. It goes all the way down to the implicit and the suggestive. And I what I'm trying to communicate is like the barrier is whether or not you are selling something that is intentionally of a sexual or even romantic nature. So like if you go back to your content goals, if you're trying to make your viewers feel a little more connected, is that romantically? And you got to be honest with yourself, because a lot of people will like they'll knee jerk no because they know parasocial is like a bad word that and they shouldn't be that way because of reasons. But if that's one of your primary content goals, if your target audience is lonely men, you probably do engage in what would be considered sex work from time to time, at least, even if it's not intentional. So you're taking on risks there, and you need to be aware of what those are. So, as I said before, there are different types of this. There's like GFE, and people will be like, "Well, I don't do GFE because like I don't give people my cell phone, and I don't send them explicit photos and blah blah blah." Some GFE menus, first of all, they tend to be a la carte. But some GFE menus include services as simple as saying good morning. And that's all they do. They tell you good morning, they tell you good night on a schedule. And that's it. That's the service. But it's sex work. It absolutely is. So you have to figure out like what kind of GFE you're doing. And especially around Valentine's Day, there's a lot of people who will like normally not do anything close to GFE, and then they'll just do like I guess maybe they label it in their heads as cute, or that day. Valentine's Day is a sex holiday. Now, I don't know about anywhere else in the world, but in the United States, when I was growing up, times might have changed. They try to convince kids that like there's a huge platonic element to this holiday, and it's just not. There's not. This is a romantic sexual holiday. So you have to understand that when you're planning a Valentine's Day stream. Because if you're going to make an entire stream about the sex holiday, you have made a sex stream, essentially. And that might not click with you if that's not your regular content. For you, this might just be a cute thing. So like all the agencies, not agencies, all the VTuber corpos, they're generally always doing some sort of Valentine's event. Like FaZe is doing an entire Valentine's event, and that is absolutely GFE, bare minimum. Though I could see somebody like Leah's content being something along the lines of Netflix and chill, but I'm super autistic, so all we do is actually sit down and watch Netflix for 3 hours. I could see that being like a Leah title. But but like it's the sex holiday, and if you're making content for the sex holiday, you may just be making sexual content. And there are risks there. ASMR can fit into sexual content, and a big problem with ASMR right now is that ASMR that used to be okay to be on YouTube is getting taken down without warning. And that's making a lot of ASMR artists like throw their hands up because they don't know where they're allowed to be because it's kind of unstable. And some of those people got the like sexual content strike over on YouTube. And I'm of the opinion that some of those people actually don't know that the content that they're making is sexual in nature. You might think I'm coping a little bit. Like, there's absolutely disingenuous people who know that they were making sexual content, and then they're just like, they're farming their ban, or they're farming their disciplinary action. Yeah, only some. Only some. Some are definitely farming their reaction. They're arguably, and I do say arguably, is ASMR that is not sexual, but I think the medium itself is sexual. I don't think we're being honest about what that content actually is, like 9.9 . 9 out of 10 times. And that's because people know that if we admitted what it actually was, it would be banned in a lot more places. Like currently, you can do ASMR content on Twitch, and you can do ASMR content on YouTube. Though one of those tends to be less stable. But even on Twitch, if you're under the ASMR label, even though there's like not a content exception for it, you can get pretty damn flirty. You can get pretty damn flirty without catching strikes. Oh, what is Nero's like? Oh, what is sexual about my most watched video? Dami Mommy tells you what a good boy you are. Yeah. It's like how every decade the most popular clothes are the clothes, or let me back up. How every decade the clothes that are most comfortable are the clothes that are the most revealing in whatever way it is popular to be revealing that decade. Whether it's the short shorts decade or the mini skirt decade or the leggings decades or or any of that. The excuse that is always given for, well, I'm wearing Daisy Dukes because they're comfortable. I'm wearing thongs that show their straps out of my short shorts because they're comfortable. I'm wearing a micro mini skirt because it's the most comfortable thing in my wardrobe. And I'm wearing a nothing to the imagination, you can see the moose knuckle from Space leggings because it's comfortable. Cat Girl made ASMR coming soon. Go for it. We don't hate on it here. We just want people eyes wide open, you know? I want people to know what they're getting into. So if this isn't you, that's fine. I'm not accusing everybody who does like this content of being like a sex worker. But some of you are, and you're coping. Some of you absolutely are, even if it's only a few days a year, and you're absolutely coping about it. And you need to be aware of the risks, which we're going to get to in a bit. My comfy clothes are loose and baggy. Yeah, wife, I know, that's why it's called an excuse. Anytime these people, I just like to play video games. Yeah, anytime these people get like caught up by like the vice principal or something like in high school, and they're like, why do you insist on wearing this? This is like the 4th time we've had to hit you for dress code. It's like, well, it's comfortable. Or like, you dress like that in public? It's like, yeah, because it's comfortable. It's like, I've had like 35 good years of watching this excuse come out. It's like clockwork, and it literally does not matter what the clothes are. Skinny jeans that you made sure were extra tight by sitting in the bathtub with them, comfort issue. Leggings, which, you know, I can actually see that one being the only one that actually I believe, comfort issue. Like I said, Daisy Dukes, that was a comfort issue. Midriffs, that was a comfort issue. Spaghetti straps, that was a comfort issue. Butt floss, comfort issue. But just like every time. Oh, whoops, the comfortable thing happens to be extremely sexy and visually appealing. How about that? Like, you come at me, bro. Like, I've been around the block a few times. This doesn't work on me anymore. Like, when I was much younger, I would just like pretend I believed that too. And I think that's what most guys who repeat that are like, oh, it's just, I think they're also pretending to believe it. But like, no, I don't even play that game anymore. But you have to ask yourself, like, where do you fit on like this sex work spectrum? Are you just like completely say so? Do you get pretty naughty at around the 14th, or anytime you're just feeling it? Because that's what some streamers do. They're not sex workers, but anytime they're feeling it, boy, are they telling their chat about it. Boy, are they telling their chat about it. Like, what part of telling your chat about what you consume in order to get off is not adult work to you? Yeah, chat, I need to breed. Like, those are things I see some cam girls not say. Honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, not that I've watched any of that in a long time. Like kids, how many kids I have tends to get into the way of like actually looking at the content and seeing what the current metas are at the moment. And you can call cap on me all you want. I unironically would watch it for that purpose. Doesn't do a thing for me, really. I'm more likely to go, ooh, what's that lighting? That lighting looks good. I'm way more likely to do that. If you build it, they will goon some guy about streamers, probably. Yeah, hey, welcome in, Omni. But, the thing I'm getting at is, like, just because you don't want to call it what it is, does not mean... Someone clip that. Does not mean that you don't get the knock-on effects from it. Just because you don't want to put the label that goes on the thing that you're doing where it belongs, that doesn't mean you get to avoid the consequences. RM chat, I need to breed, yeah. So close to if you build it, they will come. Yeah, that was sitting right there, wasn't it? It was right there the whole time. So we're going to talk a little bit about pipelines. And one of the reasons we're going to talk about pipelines is because this stuff can be pretty predatory. I think everybody knows, and if you don't, it's time to learn some things. I think everybody knows about like the model to pornography pipeline, where you're a young woman, and it's always women. That's what the scouts are looking for. You don't scout men like this. But they do have scouts in safe for work modeling. And what they'll do is they'll take just below the cream of the crop, because like every creative endeavor has the Pareto distribution or Price's law. So what happens is like the top, we'll say 10 in the country models will get like 80% of the gigs, and outlets will fight over them. And then literally everybody else is fighting for scraps. So what these guys will do is they'll be like, hey, so you're not going to be in the 80%, but you know where you could make a whole lot of money? And then they just, and this is literally grooming, they will groom them over time, because when they start suggesting this route to these girls, they're as young as like 16. So the pipeline starts sometimes even younger than that. Sometimes things get real bad. Like if you ever have a child that goes into modeling, be on set with them at all times. They are not allowed to be there without you. Ever. For any reason. I would just suggest not getting into that. But if that's something you let them do, you need to be present at all times at any shoot that they are ever at, and they're not allowed to do them without you. Ever. They come to the bathroom with you, you go to the bathroom with them, they never leave your sight. You did modeling 14 to 16? That explains some things. That explains some things. Yeah. Does your wife know? I love being able to say that back to some people. It's a good meme. Hold on. Did those get mixed up? Yeah, they did get mixed up. So we'll unmix them. So there are also pipelines in online content creation that I've noticed. Some of these are very effective. Some of these are not effective at all. But we're going to go through them. There are decent reasons to do adult content. And I'm not doing a blanket, you shouldn't do it. But like 95% of you probably shouldn't be doing it. If I'm being honest. in the Cam Girl handbook, that's the first line. It's like, you probably actually aren't cut out for this, and here's why. But chat pressure. A lot of people think that they're immune to this. And if you're currently considering doing adult work, what I want you to do is prohibit any discussion of it in your chat, in your circles. I want you to prohibit any discussion of it. And I want you to do that for an entire month. An entire month. And then I want you to see if you still feel like doing it. Because peer pressure is a hell of a thing. And chat pressure and peer pressure are a little different. We're going to get into that in a second. But if you get into streaming, and we'll also get into this, there are wrong reasons to get into streaming. If you get into streaming for affirmation, and I've seen some streamers say that to their chat, and I don't know if that's kayfabe or not. But if you get into streaming to be affirmed, and your chat wants something from you, and they want the same thing from you over time, you can convince yourself that it was your idea. You can absolutely convince yourself that it was your idea. So you need to watch out for that. There's also peer pressure pipelines. That's the people you directly know suggesting that you do it because they did it, and it's great for them, and this will happen in like they've been at it for maybe a couple of weeks or something, and they're like, oh, you need to do this too, this is wonderful, I'm making all this money, blah blah blah. This is what I like to call the new divorcee pressure, where a woman that is just like freshly divorced will tell like all of her friends how free she is and how wonderful divorce is, and oh man, I wish I did that sooner. This is why being divorced is so socially contagious, by the way. The contagion rate is 90%, for those of you wondering. So if in your immediate friend circle, if there's a single divorce, 90% of the people in that circle will be divorced inside of 5 years. So that's the group, that's the divorce contagion stats. So there's also that pipeline. There can be a peer pressure because like it's also socially contagious, and it can work the same way. So like maybe gets divorced, starts OnlyFans, sounds like winning at life. No, and I'm not going to judge there, but like it is socially contagious. That's not debatable. It just is. So this kind of works the same way. So the newly divorced person talks about how wonderful it is, and maybe they don't convince you to get divorced, but they convince another one of your friends to get divorced, and then they go through the same new divorcee cope where they're like, oh, this is wonderful, and I wish I did this sooner. And maybe they don't get you the second time, but then it happens to like a third one, like your third friend, and they do the same cope. Oh, this is wonderful, I wish I did that. Like eventually they might get you, and this works the same way. Like if this starts to spread through your peer group. And I won't even say that I have seen this spread in like the flesh tuber circles, but it's much slower. It tends to spread in the indie VTubing circles a lot more readily. And I think that's because of the presumed / assumed privacy protections of not showing your face. It's why I just don't have friends. Oh man. You can't really say much. You're on wife 2. Yeah, like my mom is wife number 2 on my dad's side. Like he had a divorce before me. That was a really weird one, the way he tells it, because it's like it was suddenly like they get married. He wants kids. She knew that, and like a few years in, she drops the I actually don't want kids bomb, and they get divorced. So mom is attempt number 2. So yeah, there's that. The There's also trend pressure. And I think this may be just as strong. Maybe not as strong as the peer pressure, but I've noticed it. It's like people that don't talk to each other kind of like get into the OnlyFans and the Fansly at the same time. I keep getting told John Twitch will bonk me for saying those terms explicitly, but like bring it anyway. I'm tired of like the child language around this stuff because that's like weird to me to be talking about this stuff and like have to do the kiddie language. There's a few VTubers I won't watch because they do that around topics like this. And it just comes off as weird to me. But I have gray hair, so what do I know? But like and again, this seems to be the most prevalent in Western independent VTubing. It's not like that it doesn't exist in other places, but that's just where I notice it most prevalently, is in that sector. And I have a few theories on that, but we won't get into wild speculation. It's a thing that happens. Trend pressure is also why so many Tumblr girls ended up on OF, because that was like, there was a strong pressure to do that. And it wasn't even necessarily the people they knew, it was people they followed or people they otherwise looked up to on Tumblr in like the 2007, 2008-ish era. Then there's financial pressure. No, not agreeing on children is how a lot of unhappy marriages happen. It's called trapping. Yeah, absolutely. And that's not a new reason to dissolute a marriage, even in periods of history where that was extremely hard to do. If a wife said, I'm not going to have kids, that tended to be something that was just like automatic, okay, we're giving you the divorce then. Because that's not a new thing by any stretch of the imagination. And like that's been grounds for divorce, like right up there with adultery. Though the punishments for adultery tended to be a lot more severe. But as far as granting divorces go, even in periods of history where that was like very, very difficult in the West, deciding or even having the medical condition of not being able to have kids was grounds for divorce in those times. So there's that. But yeah, there's financial pressure. Some people go down that pipeline because they view it as an easy cash grab, and they are in desperate need of an easy cash grab. I think if you already have an audience, it can be an easy cash grab, but if you don't, it's a lot more difficult than you think it is. And then I believe the other pipelines was actually to the left instead of to the right where it should have been. Some people get into it because they want to resolve some sort of insecurity that they have. Some people have traumatic mental disorders where they're extremely horny all the time. It's like I forget what that term is called, but sometimes trauma can cause that, and they'll use it as it's almost like they're self-medicating with porn. And that's actually generally not a good thing to do. Some people will be like, well, I'm already an exhibitionist, so let me lump this whole ass business on top of it. It's more than you think. It's more than you think. So those people tend to flame out really fast. Yeah, hypersexuality. Yeah, that is a mental disorder. That's in the that's in the DSV. Or the DSV. The DSM-5. And 4. I think that was even there for 4. With hypersexuality. Like that's a thing that can be caused by trauma, and feeding it not always the best thing. Because your mental health is part of like your risk profile. Because if, as those markers go down, all your other life markers go down. And we'll talk about some of those risks much later on, but I'll touch on it now. It can lead to substance abuse, often does lead to substance abuse, which is both bad for your health and expensive, and puts you in a legal bind in a lot of places. So there's that. Yeah, you can touch on it now. Yeah. Feeding into a mental illness like that tends to come with substance abuse problems, or vice versa. So that's not good. Mundane things like knowing your platforms. Now I did a whole stream during Cybersecurity Awareness Month, very, very close to Halloween, where we went through all of the rules. You guys. Where we went through all of the rules of all of the, well, not all of them, but like 4 or 5 adult platforms, and I think a lot of you were surprised how different they were. A lot of you were surprised that, say, on my free cams, no dudes allowed on my free cams, like no penises at all, just only girls are allowed on my free cams. And then, like, on Fansly, there's a rule about being annoying. You're not allowed to be annoying on Fansly. So there's that. Like, there were just like, huh? And like every rule set we checked, there was at least one huh. And so yeah, read the rules. They are very, very different by platform. They may very much affect who you're targeting, but it's a risk to your business not to know the rules. On that note, 2257 forms, 18 USC 2257 is why they're called that. The 1988 was like the Vulgarity Act or something, but it's 1988. Like the Vulgarity and Child Protection Act, something. This is why your cable. This is why your adult cable channels are scrambled. Is this act? But I'd have made it the okay. The calculator boobs. Very clever. But yeah, everybody who appears on your content, even for a second, needs to have a 2257 form. And I have seen so many newbies get banned because, like, their boyfriend or roommate or whatever was briefly in frame to hand them like a drink or something, or to let their cat out or whatever. And because they were in frame and did not have a form on file and were not readily identifiable as being the person in frame, insta-ban, first offense, perma. Some platforms it's, hey, this is not, let their cat out. You laugh, but on the platforms that allow pets to be in frame, which isn't many these days, that was a thing. The pet rules have come online as that problem became kind of, well, if you know, you know. But pets are not allowed on screen for most platforms anymore. But yeah, most of these streamers let their cat out for money. Peanut butter problems. Let's go. Hashtag peanut butter problems. But yeah, if they were in frame, that was anything from a permaban to this content has been removed and it won't be put back up until you provide these forms. So that's a thing you need to know. Sponsors. This is where a lot of people get into falling for scams, so we're going to go over this. Even though I'm not doing this presentation to, like, I'm sure some of it will leak in just as a tangential part of explaining some security feature, because they they combine, they overlap a bit. But I'm trying as much as I can not to give any of my business opinions. But this is one that gets people falling for scams, and we'll talk more about scams. There's a slide on scams. But this kind of overlaps. Talking about scams, time to choke it. Very normal, Nero. Very normal. But, so, one thing I see people doing is, like, they're really, really happy. They get really, really excited because some company has decided to sponsor them. And then as they talk about it, you become painfully aware that what they're actually talking about is affiliate links and affiliate programs in general. And a lot of the energy drink tub companies are also guilty of this. And I know people can't talk about contracts. I see it and I know what it is. So you need to know the difference between what an affiliate is and what a sponsor is. These used to be very, very hard and fast definitions. But these companies have had incentive to blur these lines and just like straight up lie about what they're giving you. So you need to know what these actually are. So what a sponsor is going to do is they're going to pay you to stream directly with cash, money. Well, digital cash. You know what I mean. You will be paid to stream. In exchange, you tell your audience that the sponsor is sponsoring you, and maybe you give up some real estate on your stream, or you otherwise verbally talk about the sponsor. That'll be part of your deal. But basically, the deal is, this is the PBS model. Think about how PBS works. The letter Q today was brought to you by... That's a sponsorship. An affiliate program is where you don't get anything unless you have verifiably helped the company sell their product. Raid Shadow Legends. Yeah, those are sponsors. As far as I know, I've never seen a Raid Shadow Legends contract, but the way that they're presented on stream, the mechanics of that, those sound like legit sponsorships to me, and not affiliate programs. But one thing that made my brain remember is that you look at the difference between how a Raid Shadow Legends sponsor segment goes and how, like, Sesame Street was brought to you today by the letter Q, and you're like, those are very different things. One of those is, like, explicitly a commercial, and the other one's, like, kind of commercial, but they really just say, like, who the company is. But, like, in Raid Shadow Legends, it's like, it's a whole-ass commercial. And you're right. And the person you can basically blame for that model is the late Rush Limbaugh. He pioneered turning the sponsorship into a whole-ass commercial type thing. And yeah, even in the form that it is in today, basically has not changed since he introduced that spin on the model. We are still using that from like the late 1980s. So yeah, everybody who's gone, my stream today is brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends. If you have ever done that, you are using the Rush Limbaugh technique. You're welcome. I know that made some of you throw up in your mouth a little, but that's why I said it. It's like, if you're doing that, that's him. That's why. He invented that. For affiliate links, those are almost never worth it. Obviously, you've got to look at your own contracts and make your own decisions. But a company like Lovense is going to try and prey on you, and until I see a contract that says otherwise, I'm going to use that language, prey on you. Because you're not going to be selling a whole lot of those with your affiliate link, because your audience is not who buys those. Maybe maybe somebody else who ends up streaming is going to buy one, but they already know they need one. They're not using your code. So you're just going to be sitting there talking, like, advertising for Lovense for essentially free, and you'll never sell anything, and you'll never get the revenue from that. So watch out for that. Also watch out for, like, and like, people who get into adult content might think this is a good deal when they're starting out, especially if they're poor. Especially if they're, like, survival sex workers. But if you get approached to, like, hey, we'll give you a free sex toy if you give us, like, a 5-star review or something, that is not worth your body. And that, we're gonna go into an ad break now. But we'll have a whole section on that later. I've said that a lot this stream. There's a lot to go through. I was intending on having, like, 12 slides or so, and I ended up with 20, and none of them are exhaustive. They're just here to, like, kind of remind me of what I wanted to talk about. And we're only on 8 out of 20. So if we get through this fast, I think what I'm going to do is, like, I'm going to play some more Final Fantasy VI if we get through it quickly. But if we go past, like, 9:30 or so, I'll just call it there. And we'll also have a QA section. What if I value my body very low? Well, I mean, that's up to you, Nero. That's up to you. I was going to say, how bad is my life that Lovense is preying on me? Hey, look, they're equal opportunity. They'll prey on anyone that they feel like can give them free advertising without asking for anything back. And I'll see people point out, well, don't, like, Cotton and Melody have a sponsorship? Sort of, but not really. The devil's in the details on that one. The game is sponsored. The game is sponsored. I have never seen any evidence. And again, they can't show me their contracts. That of course they can't. But I've never seen any evidence that anybody got anything more than an affiliate program, except through some sort of arrangement where there's, like, a game involved, like a product involved. But, like, as far as to an individual for being an individual, I've never seen any evidence that that is a thing. I have seen a lot of people stamp their feet and insist to me that it's a thing, and when I look into who the fuck they're talking about, oh, whoops. It's an affiliate program. Anyway, I want to start that ad now. Let's take us to this BRB screen and turn the music back up, and I'll see you guys in a bit. Stretch, take a shit, do what you gotta do. See you in 5. Oh, the prey versus prey joke. Okay, I missed that. Not quite 5 minutes. I frequently stretch when I shit. Fascinating. But yeah, since Nero is in the chat, he could back me up on this. But the thing you're getting for free, the thing you're getting for free that can be quite expensive when you have many of them. It didn't cost the company sending it to you, dick. Yes, that was intentional. The company sending that to you, that didn't cost them $5. The margins on those things are incredible. So like, actually, yeah, let's move on in the slides because we're gonna go over that. Wow, that doesn't feel like it was the next. Oh, okay. So in curation, some of my slides got mixed up. We'll get into extortion though. Curation's completely captured. And what is curation? Curation is, oh, this thing has 5 stars on Amazon. Oh, I went to a YouTube channel and they reviewed this product. Oh, I read a magazine and there's an article on this thing that is worded as if it were a news article, but really it's an advertisement. Those are all forms of curation, and you may be offered deals in that regard, especially if that's something you're going for. So, like, oops. How do I word this? So let's pretend that, like, we'll just pick a name out of the hat. Let's pretend Cotton started, like, reviewing masturbators on stream or something. Like, sex sleeves or whatever. That would be a curation activity. And you can be offered deals to do that. I was offered deals to do that. I turned those down for creative liberty reasons. And I could have used you. I could have. All right, so let's pretend that Nero's reviewing masturbators, right? I can tell you right now that the companies, anytime you hear a curator, I don't care if it's cameras, I don't care if it's firearms, I don't care if it's established titles, I don't care if it's streaming hardware, I don't care if it's microphones. If they ever say the line to you, this product was given to me by X company and they also paid me, but they do not have editorial control over this review, that is a lie. Because they absolutely, or some of them will say they did not see this review until I posted it. That might be true. Maybe. But let me tell you, the companies that tell you you can do that are expecting you to understand the wink wink nod nod that you shouldn't. And the way they do this is you'll accidentally believe them, and then they'll never talk to you again. And then the second company asks you to do that, and you'll accidentally believe them, and they'll never talk to you again. Now you have a pattern. So the third company comes up to you and says, oh yeah, you totally have creative freedom, and then you watch your fucking mouth. Because you know the game now. And maybe if you're not as autistic as I am, you would have figured it out before the first time. But I've definitely been blacklisted. I've definitely been blacklisted by product companies who said you have total creative control. And you know what my cardinal sin for one of them was comparing it to another product in its class, in its category, which is what you do when you curate, or what you should be doing. But no, what they wanted was an advertisement, and I didn't give that to them. So they ghosted me. That was Vibes, by the way. I forget who the second company was, but it was something similar. And I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. I have complete control, but I will stop getting work if I exercise it. Fantastic. You know what the funny thing is? Is that, Bad Dragon gave me money once. After I posted a review that they had nothing to do with. I was not in contact with the company. I did not coordinate with the company. I didn't even tag them in the post. And then they noticed Senpai and just sent me some store credit. And it wasn't a small number. It was a big number. And you're like, oh, that's store credit. That's not actually money. Well, it is money when that's the stuff you're reviewing. Like, money's fungible. Come on, guys. Come on. But yeah, curation's completely captured. Everybody is either implicitly or explicitly paid for. Because at the other end of the wink, wink, nod, nod spectrum, there were straight up companies that were like, we will pay you $75 to post a 5-star review on our Amazon listing. No, we're not sending you the product. We just want the review. So those are like both of the ends of that. So you got to figure out what your price is, because you do have one. And you've got to figure out who is paying that price. So one of the things that always bothered me about like curation style content was that like I didn't want to extract money from the people who were like already like the base consumers. But if I extracted money from anybody else for that content, I was being bought in some way. That's how access journalism happens. That a lot of people who still read gaming articles from time to time, or tech articles will understand this phenomenon. But access journalism is where you're not allowed to say anything bad about the company, because if you do, you're not going to be invited to do the release party coverage. You won't get the pre-release copy of the game. You will not be, you're going to be Aravind, for those of you who know who Aravind is. You will be put at competitive disadvantage to your other curators if you step out of line. So if you let anybody except your viewers pay for the content, you're getting into that power dynamic. Well, yeah, I wouldn't want to pay someone to talk shit about my product either. Some people are big enough to do that from time to time. Gerald Undone, he talks shit about cameras pretty frequently. I'd say maybe he's a little easier on them than I would be, but not by a huge degree, and he'll say when shit's wrong, but like, you've got to be big to do that, in my opinion. Senpai Gaming, he is totally 100% down to shit on bad products than he has in the past, but again, he's big enough to do that. Who else? Tech Jesus. Tech Jesus is big enough to get away with that. Linus is big enough to get away with that, but seems to not want to. Like how reviewers who review a game honestly, then they don't get the next game early. Yes, absolutely. That's how that works. So, Tech Jesus is very negative about certain things. And he's been punished by some companies for that in the past. But not a whole lot of them. Not a whole lot of them. He still gets early shit. But, like, the companies know who these people are. That's why both, to his credit, that's why both Linus and Tech Jesus when they were doing their blind buys of like certain OEM desktops to see if their gaming desktops were any good, went out of their way to like obfuscate who was buying it so that the vendors wouldn't send them Halo copies, because Halo copies are a thing. Oh yeah, that's another thing about curation that doesn't really apply to like this market, but Halo products are a thing. Outside of like the actual Halo product where it's like this is our top of the line. What I mean by Halo product is like tech companies will send viewers products that sampled above their peers, like products that have like if they're doing a CPU, they're going to do a little bit of testing on their own end, and they're going to send the reviewers samples that overclock well. So back in the day when this was still like a big thing, some outlets would buy a retail copy of the CPU to see how much of a factor that was, what we call the silicon lottery. They would buy another copy just like retail on the down low and see how that overclocked compared to the one they got from the company for the official review. And sometimes those gaps were massive. And it was everybody who was in the company's good graces got one of those samples, and everybody who wasn't in the company's good graces got lower quality samples. And what that does is it made it look like the bitter, jealous people were just being overly negative, and the people who were like the cool kids were much more positive on these products. Because marketing is not something that we stopped studying while you were in high school. We've been refining this shit for a long time, and the tricks ain't new, and sucks to be young, I guess. But you have to think about who's paying for your content and why. That's the point. I hear that's a problem in sperm banks too. Yeah, unfortunately, I did hear about that. I did hear that was an issue. Oh yeah, we gotta go back one. So this is one of the nastier risks in this business. And we're going to be talking about doxing. But when somebody gets your private information, a lot of the times what they'll do, not every time, but a lot of the times, the really mean ones, what they'll do is like, okay, I've got your information, and I want X amount from you, and if you don't give it to me, I'm telling your family. So before you get into this game, what you need to be aware of is like how closed off you are or are not from your family and friends. You have to understand that to a certain extent, you have to be willing to tell them what you're doing or pay an extortion fee. Very illegal, by the way. Like, your defense to this should be take the person to court, and your family is either going to be disappointed in you, but, you know, you're still good, or your family already knows. Like, a lot of people will tell their moms, just their moms, as like an insurance policy against this stuff. But like, if you're from a family where you're fearing like, if this gets out, I might be physically harmed, you shouldn't do it at all. Because this is going to happen. And the big thing about extortion is it usually happens from somebody you know. Either you were too open with people you shouldn't be open with. It can be first cousins, high school friends, whatever. Yeah, it's generally not a good idea to do things that could ruin your life if someone found out. Absolutely. Especially this stuff. There are cultures around this planet, and I don't have to tell you if you're you're in one of them, where this is grounds for grievous bodily harm. So, yeah, I'm going to extort the shit out of Nero. Thanks, Omni. So the way you prevent this is making sure that the information leaking does the least harm possible. So sometimes that means, depending on what you expect to earn and what it does for your life, sometimes that means leaving certain professions for this one, and sometimes it means not getting into this one. I think the people who get it, and these people exist, the people who get it in their heads that they can run an OF, or that they can run a Famsley and then like teach in an elementary school, are out of their fucking mind. And no, you're just out of your fucking mind. Don't do that. I've seen this happen to paralegals, actually. You would think paralegal would be kind of safe from this, but it's not. Mechanics. This has happened to mechanics. No, Nero. I mean, just no. I don't mean that. I don't mean that at all. I mean just doing the thing while also having that profession. I'm not even going to read that comment. I'm not sure how John Twitch is going to play with that. Lots of nurses, yeah. And you have to understand, it's not just about being prudish, it's about you being a distraction. That has happened way too often. I know it has. I'm just not sure what John Twitch will think about me saying it out loud. You become a distraction. So if like you're working at a vanilla office, and the like, let's say the office is like 80-20 girl boy, because like that's how offices are these days. But let's say it's 80-20. Well, now the 20% is going to be pretty distracted anytime you're anywhere near them. They're not going to be thinking about like their job. They're going to think about the fact that they're staring at an OF girl. The more blue collar you get, the bigger a problem this is. That's an assumption on my part, but like it's an assumption based on like the existence of being a guy and having work full spectrum, blue collar, pink collar, white collar. I've done it all. And the more blue collar you get, the bigger an issue this is. But also, if you're in a profession that comes into contact with minors a bunch, that's just an immediate disqualifier. So you have to get rid of this mentality that like, oh, I'm faceless, or oh, I've taken precautions. Nope. It is not if, it is when. Several people in the military have gotten in trouble recently for filming content in on-base housing. Yeah. So I have a buddy in the Air Force, and one of the first things he told me after he got out of BMT was how many people in BMT were filming content. So also, guys, try to slow me down. I'm getting in like that energetic, excited state. Try to slow me down. Ask me questions. Keep me focused. You know how much I can spurg about this, but like my throat's starting to bother me because I started getting into that talk fast, get the information out, go. And it's it's hurting my voice. I'll get you energetic and excited. Bet. And yes, dear, what you're thinking, I would absolutely appreciate it. I can read her mind sometimes. Sometimes. Let's see. A BJ. No, that's the last thing I need right now. So yeah, we did curation. So like, yeah. So in basic, that's nasty. I don't know about Air Force basic, but in Army basic, we definitely went periods of time without bathing. Yeah, so did they. Sometimes they went periods of time not in a building. I'm sure you did that in the Army as well. BJ, blue collar job. But yeah, in basic. In BMT. I think that's the acronym they use now. That might be branch dependent. And RM switched to his Fugi for completely unrelated reasons. You know, there are some advantages of having like, oops, I'm a VTuber now. There are some advantages to that. Like, if I come home and, like, all of my laundry is dirty and I've got, like, absolutely nothing to wear on stream. Oh, well, up, free Fugi time. Oh. I think I've done that once. Just once. Like, when he streams while I'm there and... God damn it, Nero. So yeah, I think we're pretty good on the extortion section. Oh, one thing to know that, like, half of your extortions are going to be scams. I can't tell you which ones those are going to be, obviously, but people will pretend to have your information in convincing ways, but they actually won't, and they'll try to extort you with just the suggestion that they have the information. So you got to watch out for that too. So if you're genuinely, like, worried that your life is ruined if the information gets out, you're very much more susceptible to that scam than if it's like, well, that's gonna suck, but we'll be okay. Very different vibe. So, like, while we're on that subject, we can talk about doxing in general. It is a win, not an if. Lirio says, I've had people try to hit me with that scam. Yeah, me too. It was a generic email that basically went, I've seen what you've been doing online, and I'm going to share those pictures if you don't pay me money. Threatening stuff like that with no specific information. But I ignored it because I knew that was a scam. But, like, it's not a thing for the faint-hearted. So you have to take stock of your vulnerable connections. And what do I mean by that? So you need to establish your risks for being found out. Now, if you just got, like, a regular family and you're not all that close, they live nearby but not that nearby, just normal family dynamic, dad's got a regular job, mom's got a regular job, that's one risk profile. But picture this. Your dad's in the Senate. Now what happens if you get doxxed? When you get doxxed? What if Mike Lindell's daughter was a lewd tuber? Your dad's name is Anthony Weiner. Good one. What if you're Mike Lindell's niece or something, and you're a lewd tuber? That could be a problem for, like, your whole family. So, if you have connections like that, your risk goes way up. And some people might be going, oh, who has connections like that? More people than you think in the entertainment industry. Like, you would think the entertainment industry would lend itself to nobodies. But strangely, the case seems to be that you're just as helped out by having connections. In this industry than you are in real life. Surprise, what if you're a lewd tuber and you're also Mike Lindell? Puts a new spin on My Pillow. Oh my god. The what do they call those? I'm blanking. The body pillow covers. Why am I blanking on that? Y'all know what I'm talking about. Imagine Mike Lindell having a Daki Kamura, or whatever. Yeah, Daki Makar. We'll just call it Daki. I promised Sario I wouldn't try to say Japanese words anymore. Daki Makaru. I'm sorry, Saru. I know I just promised. Anyway, yeah, imagine the Mike Lindell Daki. Well, Omni, are you Mike Lindell? Like, when you get into social spheres, when you get into, like, the socialite strata, which I've actually, because I used to do politics, I've actually bumped into this strata a few times. Not for a long period of time, but, like, a little bit. It matters in those circles. It matters a whole lot. It matters a whole lot. But anyway, you need to actually have a plan. Saru is right. Saru is right. Hey, Inac, what's up? No, that's not old money shit. If you get new money, you will be judged based on those things. Like, your car, the size of your house, and how hot your wife is doesn't matter until it does. Like, once you hit, like, upper middle class, that stuff starts to matter a whole lot more. At least if you want to get ahead in your industry. You think it don't, but it do. Taru is always right. Anyway, you need to have a plan. I forget if I went over this last stream or a stream a few streams ago, but you need to actually calculate what would happen. Like, what is your plan if you get doxxed? Are you going to move apartments? How much does that cost? Then make sure you know how much that is cost and whether or not you could afford to do it. And if you can't afford to do it, either change your content strategy or change how you're going to deal with the situation. But you need a plan. You don't need to be thinking about what you're going to do in an emergency. Because it's going to feel like an emergency when it happens to you. So fortune favors the prepared. Let's see. All right, now we're going to get into more, shall we say, fun topics. If you can't afford to do it, start a GoFundMe and get your simps to pay. That happened. And that does happen, and that's a valid strategy. It's a bit of a dice roll, but the sympathy monies could do that for you. That might not be the... I don't know if you intended that as like a joke idea, but it's worked several times. It's worked several times. It's not that out there. It's not that out there. Let me check the multi-chat real quick. Yeah, no one's over at YouTube. I'm gonna leave that up though. So yeah. One thing I am constantly surprised by is what new people in the industry don't know. Especially since, like, a lot of these topics are more socially acceptable to talk about. Like, you think I'd be doing this stream 20 years ago? Nah, don't worry about YouTube. I use that for archiving. I actually don't want to be on the multi-chat tab in OBS, if I'm being honest. Also, I'm not even sending, like, the background music or anything over to YouTube. So, like, it's strictly a worse viewing experience. Time to go to YouTube and start shit over there. I'm going to turn the auto mod so far up that you can't even talk. Or just ignore it. I think what I'm going to do is just ignore it. But, emote only. That means we can get sus in YouTube. You'd be amazed at what the auto mod does by default over there. Maybe I'd be amazed by what it doesn't do. Nice emote, Nero. Say hi, gets banned. Speaking of which, where is my best mod? I have a good feeling I know where he is. The, what? Oh, I'm sorry, waifu, did you take that personal? You'll have a whole ass day tomorrow. I know you're right there. Anyway, it amazes me what people don't know when they're... the research they clearly didn't do. When you're getting into anything, you need to do your research. And the amount of people I have seen just jump in without a shred of looking anything up is amazing. So as as much as it pains me to say this, not everyone seems to know that there are unsafe versions of toys, lubricants, or supplements. But there are. In fact, the ones that you're like, okay, I'll just get a cheap one to start with, those are the ones that are going to be the most unsafe. Those are dry throat. I'm doing that take off, run with it, talk fast thing again. What did you fix? What is she doing? I got my first time where it says I got a comment and went to look at it and it had been automated and wouldn't show me. It was the furry video. Shocker. Shocker. I like that the furry video is doing well for you. Most people's research going into it equals I see other people make money, so why can't I? That is exactly correct, Omni, and that is why I am doing this stream. Oh. Oh, there you are. Well, at least I know the plugin works. Auto-modded, lol. Yeah, I told you. I told you. We love we love the YouTube auto-mod. Because fuck if I'm gonna have double the mods. But yeah, there's a lot of these that are unsafe. And they're not, some of them aren't generally unsafe, but they're unsafe for you. So like, vaginal pH is anywhere between like 3.5 to 5. So even like, I know you've heard that phrase before in like late night commercials or actually midday commercials on YouTube. I'm thinking back to broadcast era. My bad, showing my age. But like, pH balance for a woman. Which woman? Because some of them are sitting at like 3.9, and if they go up to like 4.5, they get a yeast infection, and some are sitting in like 5, and if they go down to like 3.9, they'll get a yeast infection. Like, these are things you need to know. And what I've seen happen in the places where people talk about these things is a newbie will go like, hey, I've been using this toy and I'm getting a lot of yeast infections. What's a toy I can use where I won't get a lot of yeast infections? And I'm like, it's probably your lube, not your toy. And it blows their fucking mind. It's like, but I bought it from like a pharmacy. It couldn't be bad if I bought it from a pharmacy. They can't sell this stuff if it's not safe. None of this shit's regulated. And before the Euros jump in on me, it's not regulated there either. Sorry to say. The materials might be regulated, but the final products aren't. On that note, watch out for language like medical grade, because there's no such thing as a medical grade sex toy. And the medical grade lubricant is awful for you, because that's KY jelly, and that is one of the most terrible lubricants on the market. Snatches be different, yo. Find what works for you. Yeah, absolutely. But, yeah, the medical industry is still using KY, and KY is awful. And they can come at me with their lawyers all they want. KY is awful. It's bad. But yeah, there's lots of unsafe toys, and just use butter. You know, I can't recommend using butter, but I can recommend using butter over KY. That shit has like really terrible osmolality. Yeah, Crisco would be better, honestly. But we're gonna get into the oils later because they're tricky for a few reasons. So, toys. I'm not gonna go about this in depth. Do your research in depth. But what I will do is that like there's a big 3 for safe materials, and that is surgical grade stainless steel. Oh, I'm getting louder? Okay. My bad. I'm getting excited. There's surgical grade stainless steel. And surgical grade steel is actually a thing. I know I just said, like, medical grade's not, but when you're talking about steel, surgical is. Surgical steel is a thing. And the reason I say surgical steel is if you're allergic to nickel and you get steel with a high nickel concentration, you're going to have a very bad day. But stainless, like, if you don't have that, stainless steel will work fine. You just got to be really, really careful about who you buy steel from, and steel is going to be expensive. But surgical steel is going to be very biologically inert, and it's going to work with every type of lube, which we'll get to. But you will be able to use all of those. And then there's glass, but it is specifically borosilicate glass. Do not buy tempered glass sex toys. That's a bad time. It's got to be borosilicate and preferably annealed. Actually, not preferably, but, like, it's hard to find info on that, honestly. Simply Elegant Glass is, like, a known good for glass. I think it's called Crystal Delights is also a known good for glass, but those are, like, the only two that I know of that are definitely known good. The cheap glass thing on Amazon, your mileage may vary. But honestly, glass is cheap. Glass is very cheap. Why glass ever? Because it is inherently biologically inert. And as long as you're not putting torsion forces on it, it's actually quite tough. Yeah, and Waifu's correct. It's also easy to sterilize. You just throw that shit in the dishwasher, and you're good. Not only is soap getting on it, but it's getting very hot. Very easy to sterilize, sanitize, all that stuff. And then the last of the big three is Platinum Cure Silicone. Not silicon, silicone. Platinum Cure Silicone. You're going to... That's the material you're going to hear the most of. Medical grade. There's no such thing. Medical grade is something you give individual products, not materials. If you use a medically okay material in a product, it still has to be certified for medical use. It doesn't... Just because it's made out of, like... You could have something that is entirely made out of stuff that's good, but that product then has to be certified for medical use. There's no medical grade toy. That's just not a thing. So if you see that weasel language on a silicone toy, be wary. Fortunately for you, the best moneymaker on the market is Safe, and those are the Lovense products. The only thing they make that's not made out of safe materials are for dudes, and dudes actually have a higher tolerance to the unsafe materials, because the reason it says no TPE or /jelly on this slide... What about my medical grade lube luge? The reason no TPE jelly is on this slide is it's in a category of prolific sex toys that are porous. Porous does two things. They basically can't be cleaned /sanitized. And they trap bad stuff. So, yeah, jellies are awful. So, like, let's say you were like, I'm going to keep this thing the cleanest ever, and you bleached it. Yeah, and I was one of those idiots, and that's why I've got it on this slide, because I'm going to make sure y'all don't learn the hard way the way that I did. Which was, if you put cleaner on these things, and then you rinse them off, the cleaner stays. and it will burn you. So there's that. Yeah, that hard way I didn't intend, but you know, whatever. Haha, funny. It will also grow bacteria. In fact, even the manufacturers of these things, sleazy as they are, tend to recommend that you just, no matter how well you care for them, get rid of them in 6 months. And that's a recommendation based on normal use and exposure. If you're doing adult content, your exposure to the material goes way up. And the thing is, most of when they test things for like skin irritation, what they'll do is they'll test for a one-time 30-minute exposure. Well, you're not getting a one-time 30-minute exposure in this business. You're getting a several times, maybe hours exposure, and they're not testing for that. Even in medicine, a lot of things are not tested that stringently. They're tested for temporary contact. Can I explain dong sweat when getting hot in the package? I appreciate that you worded it that way. Yeah, so there's actually a third thing that TPE jelly does, and hours? I only last seconds. What do you mean? One of the things that TPE and jelly does is it leaches chemicals. And the reason it does that is because the reason it's so soft, and that's actually why we use TPE jelly, is because, like, silicone cannot get as soft as TPE and jelly is. And the reason that they're like that, the reason that they have really clear products, if you want them to, is because the elastomer itself is hit with a destabilizer, and destabilizer means exactly what you think it means. These things are fucking melting, literally melting, at a very slow rate constantly from the day that they're produced. Part of that comes in the form of leaching chemical oils, petroleum-based oils. Which is why on the care packages of a lot of these, you will see that they recommend that you dust them with cornstarch. That's always a red flag. The reason you're dusting them with cornstarch is to absorb those oils. That is the purpose of the cornstarch. You always thought the clear products were a bit weird. See, here's the thing. Earlier on, I said that this was a safety presentation and not a business presentation. Hi, Noodle. Yes, you cornstarch the dongs because the dongs are leaking oil. Petrochemicals. That sort of thing. Phthalates, which is spelled like PHTH. Alates. Yeah, and then they get gummy. And if they're touching, they will melt together. They will melt together. There's a shame bucket. What's her name? Dangerous Lily, I think, is her handle, but she has like a shame bucket where, yeah, dong fusion, where like all of these dongs, all of these jelly dongs have like merged into this conglomerated cylinder inside of like the jar, and it's pretty disgusting. When our powers combine, Windiddle command. I'm not sure about that one. Yeah, waifu spelled it correctly. Enjoy your jork, Noodle. I really need to get the fishing going. Can you imagine, like, playing the fishing game during this? That'd be weird. Anyway, where was I? So yeah, they literally melt. Like, in addition to harboring bacteria, in addition to trapping any cleaners that you might use on them, they're also melting. Which is why they can be clear and stuff. Oh, you were... Okay, I was responding to the clear comment. The reason this is not a business recommendation, and it is instead of a safety recommendation, is that the clear toys are actually very, very popular because they allow mental self-insertion more than other toys do. So from a business standpoint, it might be a bad idea not to have any of those, but you need to know the risks. I wouldn't have one, but it might hurt you in a business sense to not have one. That's why this is a safety presentation. Your business decisions are up to you. But you're going to do them eyes open. All right, so there's 4 main types of lubricant. Oh, I'm getting slightly louder again. Thank you, waifu. Thanks for keeping me on track. You tell he's excited. I'm passionate. I'm passionate. Maybe if I turn my mic down a little bit here. I'm passionate. There we go. That might be a little better. How do I feel about Uberlube? Oh, I forgot all about that. What I can direct you to is a resource. Because I forget what type of lube Uberlube is. Is that the, is that silicone or is that hybrid? Because I think it's one of those two, if I recall. But, a reviewer, one of the people I think money is the least involved in her reviews called, she goes by Fallophile. That's a mouthful. Fallophile reviews. She has an entire deep dive science-y thing on lubricants. And water-based lubes have this thing called osmolality. So not only is there pH concerns, but there's also osmolality concerns. So something can be the right pH, but it can actually destroy your cellular membranes through osmosis. So that's a thing. But that's silicone and vitamin E. I mean, the problem with that is vitamin E is... Sorry, I was shaking a baby. You mean rocking it to sleep, Nero. That's what you mean. You mean you were rocking the baby to sleep. But the problem with vitamin E is, like, that's oil-based. So... It started out strong with the silicone, and yeah, vitamin E is good for your parts, but that introduces, like, oil-based lube problems. Not compatible with latex. May stain. I don't know if they've purified the vitamin E to a state where it's not yellow. I've never seen or used Uberlube. But oils can stain. Oils, silicone is kind of futzy with what it interacts with. It doesn't interact with much except itself. But if your oils have a scent, one of the things a silicone toy will absorb is oil-based scents. So there's that problem. Yeah, you already have to be careful since it's silicone with yeah. Say silicone plus silicone equals a bad time. It equals, like, literally melting. So we'll start with that since we're already talking about it. Silicone lubricant does a few things. Obviously, it's compatible with steel. It's compatible with glass. It is not compatible with silicone toys. And your mileage will vary on the jelly ones that you should be avoiding anyway, but they should be compatible with those, since the elastomers that they use in those toys are completely different. They actually should be good there. Again, wouldn't use TPE/jelly if I were you, but it should be compatible with those. Then you have water, or yeah, sticking with silicone for a second, it is biologically inert, and it is not absorbed by mucosal membranes, which means it's going to stick around for the long haul. It's not going to go anywhere, and it's not going to make you sick. There's no pH concerns. It's not going to give you yeast infections, and it's not going to damage your cell membranes via osmolality. So it's got a lot going for it. Water-based lube is compatible with literally everything, so you don't have to worry about any compatibility issues if you're using water-based lube. Unfortunately, water-based lubes tend to contain the most preservatives because they require thickeners. to make them last any sort of length of time. And a lot of those thickeners are glycogen based. They're glycols, and they need preservatives. They're also obviously water means it's pH time because pH is a water thing. So they have the proper pH. They also have to have the right osmolality. You might be allergic to the preservatives. Like if you take Bad Dragon's Cum Lube, that actually tends to be a good lube for a lot of people. But some people I know cannot use it because they're allergic to the vitamin C that's used as a pH balance and preservative element in that lubricant. So water is going to be one of the more futzy ones. You're just going to have to find a formula that works for you and stick with that one. Yeah. Have I ever told you I almost shit myself at work because I ate almost an entire bottle of Joe Candy shop lube over the course of a shift? Why did you do that? Surely there's a story here. You lost a bet. You thought the bottle was something else. Like, how did that happen? The dehydration on water-based lube makes it sticky after like almost immediate use, and it's yucky. Yeah, that's another thing. It dries out. You have to reapply. You have to re-wet it. There's a reason. Yeah, why? Why? I hope that's what INAC is saying why about, because it's what I am saying why about. They gave us testers and it was really good, so I kept showing it to customers and I'd prove it tasted good by, oh my god, dude. You literally, wow, okay. I mean, more power to you. He's nothing but a motivated salesman. It was a shit. I imagine anything edible would be bad. You might as well taken a package of duck sauce from the Chinese restaurant and used that, man. Like, sure, it's a yeast infection in a packet, but you probably wouldn't have had the shits for so long. So yeah, the water-based lubes are the ones that are, if you get them wrong, and you don't go look up detailed guides like I mentioned before with at Fallophile Reviews. She's just my go-to on that because of how much detail is there. That's the one that can cause repeated irritation, infection. Like if you're having an infection problem, look at your lubricant first, unless you're using like a jelly toy, and then like look at your lubricant second and just get anything that isn't jelly immediately. And then there's oil-based lube that also has compatibility issues, but its main compatibility issue is that it doesn't work with latex condoms, which, you know, depending on your content might not be a consideration at all, or might be a deal breaker. The thing about oils is some of them can stain, but other than that, they're not absorbed by your body as quickly as water. They don't have any pH concerns. They don't have any osmolality concerns. And they can be used with silicone toys. So they've got a lot going for them. Coconut oil is really popular. If you use unrefined coconut oil, your toys will start to smell like coconut, and you will have to literally bake them in an oven to get rid of it. Or use ozone. Nero's like, oh yeah, I remember condoms. Hey man, I'm doing really good to remember that they exist in this presentation. Let me tell you, I too basically can't remember the last time I used one. So there you go. Now the reason I know that silicone lube is compatible with latex is because dimethicone, which is the primary ingredient in silicone lubrication, is also used for latex dressing and latex shine. So I definitely know it's compatible with that. We'll get another ad break soon. It is already 9 o'clock. Oh man. We are on slide 14. Are we gonna make it, bros? Are we gonna make it before 10? Are we gonna make it before 10? Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and run the ad. Take 5. We'll be back. Yo, we back. Yeah. Anyway, point is, it would suck to make a mistake at this stage of the game and then have to take several weeks off of making content because you didn't follow some basic safety procedures. To say nothing of the long-term effects of exposure to some of these things, which I can't yet say for sure, but there's a feeling out there that some of these things might be a little carcinogenic. But I can't say that because we haven't made that determination, and that might make some people upset. So there you go. Now there's other stuff we got to talk about. So like, you'll kind of want to stay away from supplements, just in general. A lot of those are sold for basically to help with your presentation, is what I'll say. Now, in like a domain that we're not really talking about, like physical prostitution, I know like they'll buy stuff like Yummy Cummy and stuff like that. But there's other supplements that people recommend. I think you should just stay away from those. Definitely stay away from things like numbing creams. Your nervous system is there for a reason. Don't turn it off. Numbing creams are absolutely out of the question. Yeah, bruh. Bruh, numbing cream. Yeah, no. Do not do that. Wife is telling me I'm getting loud again. And she's right. Do not do not the numbing cream. I took so much time talking people out of, like, I don't know why those are really still sold. Like, we know they're bad. We know why they're bad, but like jelly's still sold too, and we know that's bad and we know why it's bad. So I guess there is that. The yeah, just don't. But like a lot of the time what you'll see in this industry, especially on the streaming side, is that people will take substances to help them dissociate during stream. And I've heard of that happening in safe for work streams, but you can imagine how much more prevalent that is in not safe for work streams. If you think that engaging your brain's pleasure centers while under the effects of drugs that help you dissociate is a recipe for addiction, you are correct. Don't do that. Because obviously there's health reasons and mental health reasons, but also that's going to cost you a bit as you become dependent on these substances to do your job. That gets really expensive. Ask anybody who just like smokes regular cigarettes or needs 3 pots of coffee a day to do their work. Waifu's looking real. She's looking real called out over there. It is 3 pots worth of caffeine. It might not be coffee, but it's 3 pots worth of caffeine. And I am as guilty as you are on that one. Those normal substances are expensive enough. If you have to dissociate to get this work done, I suggest you stop. Just full stop. Just right there. I just suggest that you stop. There's a lot of people doing regular content that aren't going to like hearing that, insofar as they'll ever hear it. But, why are you making that face, Idek? Why are you making that face? But I like drinking and streaming. You see, every once in a while, you know, maybe you're going on Sip Sip Bitch or something. Maybe you're doing that. or maybe you're doing a goal or something. But if you're like doing it every stream just so that you can get through the stream, you have a problem, or you're developing one. And I would think drinking especially is going to come back to bite you real quick. What about moderation, Dink Donk? I like Cafe Cubano with gamer subs. That's probably the least bad thing I've heard so far. I've thought about it. I'm funnier when I drink. Yeah, well, you gotta resist that, dude. I've seen that go very bad. Have you heard of Rekieta Law? Or Legal Mindset? Now, Rekieta Law like went off the deep end, but Legal Mindset had to back off of a drinking thing that was becoming a problem recently. LawTube in general likes to lean in on the alcohol a bit. But like, yeah, they developed problems, and Ricketts crash out was legendary. Rekieta lost like everything. Gas station boner pills. Do not the boner pills. Air traffic controllers like to do substances. I can imagine that methamphetamine adjacent medications are popular, like Adderall. I imagine those are drugs of choice. Basically any stimulant. But also then the downers after their shift. I can imagine it's like a seesaw for air traffic controllers. Get addicted to the uppers and the downers. So, like, be careful with this stuff. You might not consider this a risk of the job, but it absolutely can be. It often is. A lot of people get caught up in that. Slide 16. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about scams, and the reason I put basic cybersecurity awareness training is because this is kind of this is one of the few areas of adult work where the generalized advice can apply to you a lot. Like, one of the reasons I'm doing this stream is because there's a lot of gaps. There's a lot of gaps in safety training that just doesn't cover this stuff. But when you're talking about resisting social engineering, which is, that's what scams are, they're forms of social engineering. All of this stuff is covered in basic cybersecurity awareness training. I don't know why I turned partying to laying. What? I was laying with some. I was partying with some when I was up at the FAA, and it was like, fine, like, oh, who wants booze? Who wants some leaf? Sure, whatever. Then one guy's like, who wants some Coca-Cola? And I'm like, cool, guys, I'm gonna head home. Yeah, like I said, I called it, mixing the uppers and the downers. That seems very FAA coded. But yeah, the stuff about browser isolation. I go on about browser isolation all the time on this stream. So I didn't feel like I had to put it out in detail here, but like, know what that is, look into it, look it up. Device isolation. I recommend full device isolation for this job. So look that up. And then you need to learn how to like just avoid I go off about browsers isolation. See what you did there. And then you just have to learn how not to get finessed, essentially, by social engineering and other common scams. One of the best ways to do that is to think about what your acceptable payment options are and never deviate from them. Because most scams involve deviating from acceptable payment options. Like, they'll like, oh, my bank didn't like what I was doing, so can we do gift cards? It'll be shit like that. Um, it'll be shit like that. Also, which scams are basic and popular, um, really depend on the year. Really, they're always changing. So you need to be plugged into the community a lot more closely than I have been in several years. So I'm not going to get detailed there. Um, I'll sell Beehole for a year supply of ramen. There are some people in a position where that might be a worthwhile trade, but like you'll never get the ramen is the problem. Yeah, Cole's cash. Snap benefits. But yeah, you need to know what device isolation is. You need to know how to encrypt sensitive data. You need to know how to protect data that is in rest, in transit, in motion, and in process. Oh, you said ramen. Okay. I see what you did there. I mean, it said ramen over there. Oh, you're just playing with me. Never mind. Um, but yeah, device isolation, browser isolation, and the other things I just said. You need to know those things. Um, you also, more than any other type of content creator, you really need to be suspicious of your moderators, because like I said, moderators are getting compensated. It's just how they're getting compensated is what you need to figure out. But there's no such thing as an uncompensated mod. They're compensated some way, and you might not like the way that they're being compensated, like in their minds. Um, so be aware of that. The worst scams are going to come from inside the house. Some things that are like not quite scam level, but things you need to avoid falling for, or stuff like, oh, can you say my name while you're doing XYZ? This is usually used by people trying to impersonate you, and trying to steal your identity. So what they'll do is they'll steal your content, and when people like ask for proof of who you are, they'll use that voice snippet you said to establish that proof of who you are. Um, so it's like that. That's why, like if you remember like old 4chan, it was like write the current date in Sharpie on your arm, because that's the current date. So it's harder to fake that. But what they'll do is be like, yeah, say my name, or something that sounds oddly personal. And what they're trying to do is to like establish a way where they can steal your identity, essentially. So watch out for that. People stealing your content have come up with some really interesting ways to legitimize that they're the real owner to other platforms. Let's see. I think we're going to make it, fellas. Your taxes. Do them. I ran out of time to include it explicitly, but like here I was going to have a clip of that scene in Batman the Animated Series where the Joker is just like he's trying to like rob a jewelry store or something because he needs to pay the IRS, and he says something to the effect of I'll go up against Batman all day long, but I'm dumb enough to take on the IRS, or crazy enough to take on the IRS, which is, he's Joker, he's crazy, that's the joke. But don't take on the IRS, do your taxes. There was a thing a few years ago where it became like plainly obvious that adult workers weren't paying their taxes, and people intentionally went out and just like started mass reporting these people to the IRS, and a lot of them ended up in trouble, and that was like a whole thing. Protect yourself from that. Oh, you got your daughter's SS card today. That's cool. Protect yourself from that. Um, it sucks that people haven't figured out that the social security card was never intended to be used as ID, and we really need to be using something else. Um, but I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Um, do not be afraid of accountants, particularly CPAs. If they do you dirty, there is definitely ways that you have to retaliate against them in a legal manner and professional manner that they are just not going to fuck with. I promise you, the CPA's seen an OF girl before. I promise you that that's happened. You know, if they've been a CPA for like any length of time. If you're so nervous about it that you're not willing to see a CPA, you probably don't need to be doing this. Either that or you need to learn to do your own taxes and do them well. It's one of those two things. It's one of those two things. But I promise you, the CPAs care less than you think they do. I'm about to call some people out. I'm not sure it's going to be my name by name, but I'm going to be vague posting real close to the sun here. But in general, the people I have seen with the most batshit, weird, and dangerous takes on sex ed are young adult performers. Particularly the young ones. In genital, you mean? No, I don't. I'm being serious here. Like, y'all bad at this. Does Reddit count as sex ed? See, that's the problem. I think that's where a lot of young people are getting their sex ed is from Reddit. Or something equivalent to as bad as Reddit. Get a motherfucking book. READABOOK. Read a book. Get a current one. do not get online educated here. Just don't. You would think somebody that puts objects into themselves for a living would understand that the vaginal canal and the urethra are two separate things, but a lot of them don't. A lot of them don't. So that's like the only example I'm going to... Oh, no, it's not. Here's the call out. Do not put soapy fingers up your butt. Ow. Don't do that. There's another example of sex workers having really, really terrible sex ed advice. Just because you get away with it does not mean it's a good idea to recommend that to others. And yeah, that came from a sex worker. That little bundle of, oh yeah, put a soapy finger in your butt. Don't do that. I'm tempted to name drop there, and not for the reasons you think. But I'll just move on. You need to get independently educated on this topic. Y'all do dangerous crap. Well, I guess it's QA time. Is there anything y'all were expecting to hear that I didn't cover, or something that needed to be covered a little more, in detail? Ah, I remember that Catholic children's song, put a soapy finger in your butt. Yeah, no. You're supposed to use hand sanitizer. Don't do that, Omni. That's bad. Don't do that, Omni. That helps kill the evidence. We need some bonk emotes, I'm pretty sure. Oh, there's one. Hey, puppet pal Clem, what time is it? I literally added this last week. Well, you added a lot last week. I couldn't keep up. I couldn't keep up. You added a whole ton, which I appreciate. I said, Puppet Pal Mitch, what time is it? Oh, thanks for the glizzy sacrifice, Snaxies. I love the bongos.
It's bonk time.
Thank you, waifu. Thank you, waifu. It's bonk time. I can't see it on mobile, so it doesn't exist. Ew, mobile. The mobile experience. Ew. Point and laugh at that guy. I only do that when I'm in audio-only mode. That's the only time I will subject myself to the mobile experience. Well, it sounds like you guys don't have a whole lot of questions. So I think we're going to wrap it up. I've never watched a full stream on PC. Skill issue. Ooh. Ooh. Hey, hold on. Hold on. It's funny, I know what you're talking about. It's funny, I know what show you were talking about. Yeah, good. Somebody's cultured in here. Somebody's cultured in here. No, I bought the entire run of that show, and now my children are enjoying it. And PC is for hentai and games, not content consumption. So I see that ZV just went live. Do we want to raid ZV? How do I do that? Do I just do /raid? Raid Z. Oh, do I have to spell that like exactly correct, or it won't even give me a hint? That's screwed up. Where's my raid panel? Where's my raid panel? I'm just going to switch my ads manager to the raid panel. And we'll go from there. Okay, then yeah. That's what I had it. That's how I had it spelled, but I was like, I was nervous because like if you screw that up, you just go to like some weird places. Yeah, we'll drop her mod off now that we're done with him. Whee! Oh wow, it does not give us much time for that. Let's go, ZV Raid! Behave. Yeah.